So we decided to do a YouTube channel, and basically what we are going to be showing you guys are garden videos. So I'm going to do a lot of garden tours for you, and just a little preface is that we moved to North Texas from New Mexico, and so we are in the process of just building our homestead from scratch. And so our property is just about, I think it's a little over 3 acres. It's very wooded. It's very it's like a cottagey feel, and so we have to cut down a lot of trees and make the most of the space that we have. And we are really excited about building this garden. And when we came here, it was a very beautiful yard. The owners before us had a very beautiful cottagey feel. He had a lot of perennial plants, a ton of echinacea on our property. So I'm super excited about that because there's a lot of gems on this property that I can just pick from, and now I don't have to plant myself. Echinacea is really good for different tinctures. I put it in my teas and different things like that. It's really good to help build your immune system. But let's see. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got into gardening. So I've been gardening for forever, but it's slowly progressed. So I started out just buying some starts at the store and planting like a small little raised bed section. You know, it started off with like zucchinis and a store-bought tomato plant and jalapenos, things like that, more like a salsa garden. And then we moved to our next house, and I did the same thing, but I built it a little bit bigger. And so I was still doing started plants, and we loved it. My kids loved it. My kids will not eat store-bought tomatoes, but they love picking tomatoes from the garden. And so we have just really, really loved gardening. And then a few years ago, I think it was about 4 years ago now, we used to live in New Mexico in Albuquerque, and we moved to like a nearby city, Corrales, and it was like this hidden gem in New Mexico. And when we moved there, we had an acre of land, which if you're like from the city, that is a ton of space. And honestly, it's amazing how much you can grow with just an acre of land. And so that's when like our gardening really took off. And the first year we moved there, I think we moved in like August or something. And the first year we planted fruit trees, and we planted for the very first time from seed. And I remember it was actually my husband's idea, and he was like, let's do a pumpkin patch over here. And he like bought the seeds from the store, and I was like, why don't you just buy the plants? It'd be so much easier. And I was just totally clueless. And so he actually planted it, and I was very skeptical. I was like, it's probably gonna fail. We didn't even like prep the ground right and all yada yada yada. But it like grew incredible. It was such a beautiful garden, like a little space. My kids loved it, and we loved it. And then I really think that's where like the love for gardening really took off. And so the following year, we went ahead and we planted some raised beds in a small little area for an in-ground garden. And we grew a bunch of things from seed. And that was my first year starting things from seed indoors. So I planted my own tomato plants, pepper plants, different flowers, and all of that. And I did a lot of direct seeding. So of course I became obsessed with the garden. And I think we had like maybe 4 raised beds, like 4x8s or something like that. And then the next year we did more, and then I grew like rows of corn and rows of potatoes. I remember the first time I dug up my sweet potatoes that I grew, which are so easy to grow. Well, I better not say that because I don't know if they're easy to grow here in Texas, but in New Mexico, they were so easy to grow. You literally just plant them, water them, and they're good to go. And they're like the funnest things ever to harvest. And so I was like, this is incredible. I just love the garden. So of course, the next year, what did I do? We added more raised beds. We started figuring out different things like, oh, strawberries are perennial, and these flowers are gonna reseed, and I will never have to plant these flowers again because they'll just keep coming back every year. And asparagus is a perennial and I can't eat it right away. And so that is where the love started. And we built a very beautiful place out in New Mexico. And the funny story is my dad bought it, and him and his girlfriend Melissa, she like grew up gardening and all that, so they are transforming the space, but they are using the raised beds. They're using the same area that we had prepped for the in-ground garden, and they're just making it beautiful and making it so cool. And so fast forward to 2021, and here we are in Texas. We never thought we would move. It's just here, no family out here, and we bought this beautiful property, and now we are transforming it. And so I just want to show you kind of just like a progress of where we started and how it's going. And I love garden tours. I've been watching Roots and Refuge, Jessica Sowers, for years now. I absolutely love her stuff. And we don't really watch a lot of TV, but I will binge watch like garden tours on YouTube. And so we have been saying like, we should do one, and share the fails and share everything with you. I am not a professional. I am actually, for the first time, actually really getting into planning my space out better, because for the longest time, gardening was just fun for me. I didn't do hardly any planning. And now that I've been doing it for so many years, I think I'm going to start actually, or I am starting to plan my beds a little bit better and not have it be so crazy. I didn't want to do that in the beginning because gardening was like my happy place, and I didn't want to like waste so much time worrying about, is this a companion plant, and all these things that you can read so much conflicting information about, which in the long run isn't going to make or break your gardening year. Of course, there's certain rules. Like I planted onions with my tomatoes, and that was not a good pair because onions need a lot of water, and if you do too much water with your tomatoes, it'll make them crack and they won't be as good. So I've learned a lot over the years, and I just want to share one of my greatest loves, the garden, with you guys. And my kiddos, I have 3 kiddos and 1 heaven baby, and they all love the garden. You'll see them on here too because they're always out here helping me. And my husband, he loves the garden too, but he works. I stay at home. I'm actually a nurse, but I stay at home and I have like an elderberry tea business, and I do photography on the side, and I'm no longer working as a nurse at the hospital. I did work like PRN during like having kids and stuff like that, but I really haven't been working a lot. I'm more of a stay-at-home mom since having kids. And so that's a little bit about me. I'm excited to show you the garden, and